Put the Underground Railroad. Hey, Dave.
Part one of each session is a 45-minute PowerPoint presentation that will provide, number one, a summary and analysis of feedback from the first three public meetings. Two, a presentation of the three alternative concepts, and three, an explanation of the scoring process. During part two of the session, participants will be given 45 minutes to score each of the three alternatives in 8 categories, or what we're calling our frameworks. This won't be like most public meetings where only a few bold attendees walk up to a microphone and get to make a statement. Instead, Perkins & Wills has developed stations that allow participants to learn more about the benefits and drawbacks of different planning strategies for the Outer Harbor before choosing their favorites. Following the meeting, Perkins & will incorporate your feedback to produce a composite draft plan for the Outer Harbor that prioritizes the community's chosen planning strategies. A draft Outer Harbor blueprint will then be presented at a meeting in September for further public input and review. Governor Cuomo has made it clear he does not want a static plan that sits on a shelf taking many years before progress materializes. Your feedback tonight and your presence at the next meeting in September will take us one step closer to a final design for this important piece of waterfront property. I now have the pleasure to introduce someone who is extremely familiar with the waterfront and who, without his guidance and support and effort, we wouldn't even be here today, and that's our Congressman Brian Higgins. Brian?
Thank you, Robbie. I just want to emphasize what Robert has said about the quickness of this process. There have been 5 master plans for the Outer Harbor over the past 40 years, and they all say the same thing. Get to work. Remove the barriers to access, create public access, generous public access at the water's edge in perpetuity, and everything that remains will become that much more attractive for both private sector investment and public access. And that's part of the strategic vision. The mayor and I have talked about this many times and collaborated on many projects. We're currently doing Ohio Street to convert that from an old broken industrial roadway to a brand new pedestrian-friendly parkway that will be the land bridge between Canal side and the Outer Harbor. Next year, we'll have a brand new state park at the Outer Harbor. As Robert had mentioned, the NFTA has given up their 56-year hold on the Outer Harbor waterfront. The problem is they didn't put any investment into it. There's about $40 million in repairs that have to take place. So unlike previous planning processes, which have taken 40 years, this one will take 4 months. And it's specific. And your input will be direct and will be listened to and will be incorporated. Because the one thing that we've learned, chasing Bass Pro and everybody else, the attraction of the Buffalo waterfront is the water. And that's where people are coming to from all over western New York and southern Ontario. Look at the great success of Canal side. Over 900 events this summer, over 1 million visitors. Directly across the street from that, you see developing the old War Memorial site. We will issue a public request for proposals to have the private sector develop that to inject new economic viability into an area that's been economically dead for 30 years. We'll also have public access there. An outdoor skating rink that will be 3.5 times the size of Rockefeller Center in New York City. And you can see where that public investment is energizing the private sector to make investments. The old Donovan office building, vacant for 15 years. $30 million of private investment now houses Phillips Lytle Law Firm. You know what their address is? 1 Canal side. But more than that, it's so much more than a mailing address. It's a statement about commitment, about vision, about confidence in this community. The Buffalo Sabres, a $190 million Harbor Center project, will be done at this time next year. Ohio Street, under construction today. It is a great time to be involved with Buffalo waterfront development. In this process, we'll wrap up in a couple of months, and we will move, along with you, toward a quick implementation to give people of this community the waterfront that they've hoped for, they've worked for the past 50 years. So let's continue to work. Let's continue to work hard. Let's continue to work toward implementation. And let's make those connections between the more densely developed downtown Buffalo and the Outer Harbor. And always remember, we don't need at the Outer Harbor another city with dense development. What we need is a great waterfront to complement the good and great city that we have. Thank you very, very much for your confidence and for being here.
Thank you, Congressman. Now I'm pleased to introduce my colleague on the Erie Canal Harbor Development Board and my colleague on the Erie Outer Harbor Review Panel, and most importantly, your mayor, Mayor Byron Brown.
Thank you very much, Robert. Good evening, everyone. I just want to focus on the importance of partnerships and the importance of public input. I want to just again recognize Congressman Brian Higgins and thank him for his leadership and his strong partnership in moving our waterfront development forward, but also his partnership in so many other areas of importance to our city. Let's give our Congressman another round of applause. Certainly, we have to recognize our Governor, Andrew Cuomo, who has paid tremendous attention to Buffalo and Western New York. He has been here, I think, more than any governor in the history of this state and has directed resources to this community, unlike any governor we've ever seen. So we certainly are very thankful for his partnership. Yes, we can clap on that. And I want to thank Robert Joya for his stewardship and leadership of the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation. As chairman, I know some of the other members of the board of the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation are here as well. I want to thank them for their work and service. So partnership has been very important in moving projects and moving initiatives on our waterfront. But most important to all of us is public input. Is hearing from each and every one of you, hearing what you think, hearing what you want to see on our waterfront. As I look out in the audience, I see many faces that I've seen before that have come to a lot of these public meetings, and I feel very good as mayor, very encouraged about the public participation process that's been set up. We are very fortunate to have selected Perkins & Will, a company with a national and international reputation for steering these kinds of processes. I want just to stress to you as mayor that your ideas, your thoughts are going to be heard. The interesting thing, the exciting thing, is in this group of people who have turned out, there are no shortage of ideas and thoughts for the waterfront. We will see those ideas boil down into three concepts. We're certainly looking forward to hearing your thoughts about those three concepts. And I just want you to know that we will continue to listen. We will continue to work together in partnership. And with your support and with your input, we will have the kind of waterfront that Buffalo and Western New York deserves, one that will be the envy of the entire nation. Again, thank you all very much for coming out.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll get out of your way in a second, but before I introduce Karen, I need to share with you that, and the Congressman mentioned this, what we have been able to accomplish in 3 short months, it takes most communities 3 years to do. The Herculean work of Perkins & Will, Empire State Development Corporation, and Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation is astounding, and I think we owe them all a great debt of gratitude, and let's give them a round of applause. So now you're going to find out what you have to do tonight. You're required to participate, and who will explain it all is Karen Alschuler from Perkins & Will. Karen?
Good evening. It's so nice to see a lot of familiar faces. I'm reminded every time we begin one of these meetings that we're standing on the shoulders of a lot of people who've thought about the waterfront for a long time, the city doing the many plans, and all of the agencies and the leadership represented here tonight. So we're honored to be part of that team and to be able to present progress on our work to you tonight. So we, let's see. So this is our agenda for the evening. This is the agenda for the presentation. And then we'll all be at work together, as we did before in our other meeting, trying to identify the things you most prefer, the things that just light up your eyes and you're thinking about what it might be like to be on the Outer Harbor. There'll be two parts then, and Robert has described it a bit. We'll make a presentation. It's going to be about the next 30 minutes or so. And then we will ask you to go over to the display, the board, those are individual stations, and do your scoring, and we'll explain how that happens. So we'll get a chance to, this time, to describe a bit more to you about the background of what we've done and what it's all based on, but we'll still be looking for your input and your ideas. I'll describe that in some detail at the end of the presentation. So this agenda begins with the site and location context. We'll report back on what we heard and saw and what you wrote wonderfully in the workshops and how we've taken that time to analyze that. We'll introduce these urban design frameworks and the three alternatives that are made up of layers of those frameworks put together with different ideas, but organized in a way that makes sense for the future, and we'll get your thoughts about that. I'm joined in doing all this work, I have to say, with a great team. We have a team who's worked really intensively, as you just heard. We're rooted in Buffalo. We have Watts Engineering, Architectural Resources, and Eric Lauer Associates who've done a great job. You've met them all coming in today, helping us to organize this extensive outreach. And then we have, as part of our team at Perkins & Will, I'm the principal in charge. Noah Frieden, who will present to you tonight, and you'll hear from him, and Dennis Dorner, both are the designers from our team who are here, and you'll get a sense of where we stand from him. And Noah will be joined. We're very happy to have Kate Orff on the dais as well. Kate is from Skate Landscape Architecture. We've so been looking forward to having her as part of this team because of their responsibility that they've shown on their other projects towards ecological issues, towards public use, towards deep analysis, and bright ideas that are about nature and use and the public moving forward. So you'll hear a bit from Kate tonight. We're also joined by HRNA doing this work, and Sue Lynn Carling is here. She's back. You've met her at all our other meetings in July, and they are working with us consistently and will be very important as we begin to do the economic analysis for each one of these options. So that's the full team. And let me just dig in now with the presentation. Site, location, and context. I see a lot of familiar faces as you're coming in today. Delighted about that, but I know there may be some new people in the audience who heard about the excitement of the Outer Harbor. So just to pinpoint the area, I think this is a pointer. There we go. I don't know if you see the little red dot here, but we're focusing on the Outer Harbor. That's the western side of the city, just south of downtown and west of the silos area. You can see on the map on this side that this study area is just across the water from Canal side, south from downtown, extends down south. You can see where Ohio Street comes on, those improvements that you just heard about from the congressman. So you get the general location of our study area, but we've talked a lot about the broader area in which this sits. We're looking really broadly at this general district, the specific areas, but you can't, as you reminded us, that you can't really study this and understand it maybe in terms of the lake. And it's not only the land, but the water that is very important in this thinking. We sit in a space of really natural beauty today, some challenging parts of it, some very important opportunities, and we feel that connection both to nature but also to the city and the downtown. We've done a great deal of analysis using a lot of the work previously done and our own, which we call our existing conditions analysis. And in the last meeting, those of you who were there saw that background information about wind and sun and noise conditions, and it's kind of a map on the right, which is an opportunity to constraint map. Highlights the wonderful barrier between the site and the rest of the city. The opportunity for bringing new access in, begin to give us our marching orders for the things we have to solve and stuff. We've also completed an ecological analysis, looking at the ecological aspects. And you know, you can't stop on an interest. Things are changing, evolving on that side already today. There's some wonderful things happening in this park. Other things that will improve. And you'll hear more from Kate about this with the experience related to that. Maybe I should just go back to the second just to point out that, so this shows that the focus of the study area, we looked at that, and also the ways in which the time to shift, as we talk about it, time to shift nature reserve is an important part of that ecological use. And we talked a lot about wanting to enable wildlife natural features. And we've done one other thing since we last saw you. We've expanded beyond this land and water boundary that we had originally to add to it the New York Power Authority land to the north here, which is part of the study. A lot of you in your work suggested some changes and improvements that we made there. That's that first Buffalo Marina, as you know it. And then also terminals A and B. We had a lot of great ideas, and we were trying to think about them ourselves. We've been thinking about that for terminals A and B, so we added those things. You'll see in this part. We dug into the workshop. A lot of work was done. We received a great deal of information, writing, verbally from you, and what we observed during the time game. We had 24 beautiful classes to do. This is one of the meetings in this room. You can see the people gathered around and the way in which information was presented on post-it notes and other ways. So almost 600 people, roughly 600 people attended those three workshops. We had all ages, which was great. People sat and worked together to think about what to do, what kinds of issues to do there, and to take the 50 ideas that were on the table and use their welfare for new ideas, and think about how things like this, working at scale and issues, and doing we must appreciate that a bit when we came out of Harvard. When we got together and looked at what people did and then worked together back and forth, thinking about what's best for looking to point for the sort of idea that working in this area. A lot of new ideas came forward to report it. And when we went to analyze it, it was a lot of times those places where people came together and figured out on the corner of the site. On the boards that identified possible uses on the site, people expressed themselves as putting green dots on those boards. We received a lot of direction from you about those uses, things that got a lot of that favorite, and that didn't seem to get a lot of attention. So we, for example, very low interest in the regional shopping center for the site. But there was a lot of interest in, and there's also neighbor centers and restaurants that might be along the site. This is pretty strong. When the team laid out all 24 plans and looked at them and analyzed them, it was remarkable. Some of the consistencies, no question, everybody talked about being sort of public, no matter what business came there. It was public, it was place-based, meaning it was about this place or this place. It is history, it is future, very much about Buffalo. So we did that analysis, and you'll see the results on how we use that. So one way you could take that expression, you took I guess it was 3,800 green dots. So by the time you put all the voices that were placed on the census and then you were placed them, you could look at the most popular, the moderately popular, and the least popular students. And I'm expected to read every one of these. This information is all available on the website, and there's a lot of it available tonight on the board. You can look at it by those details. But another way to think about it is to start to look graphically. So that same information can be expressed this way. So the size of these systems represents the number of people who are interested in the use. So when you look at that, again, you see most popular and moderate and that. And then pay attention to all of these ideas, and particularly those two people put along with them. But they help us to see what things really caught people's attention, what things in their mind, whether it was meadows and trails, wintertime and summertime, all season use. A lot of interest in the fish hatchery. Everyone who's been, I think, to a concert, felt that someplace the music and the amphitheater made sense. And you'll see in our plans, we looked at a variety of places that can be put on the site. So a lot of good ideas that were there. And we had an idea about the package that we would have to do for the first and second week that you see here. We'll be able to look at these in detail. You can also look at it another way. Take those same circles and you put them together by the color. This means it's related to the type of use. So green is, as many of you remember, the open space related uses, so trails and fitness areas and green spaces. Along with that, were the next green up on the right. Very much related to that were the ecology and resiliency uses, so that might be fish habitat, wildlife corridor, wetlands, things of that sort. Also, open space related use. The red is active users, so that would be just destinations like a festival or restaurant, things that also work well with some open space. There was less interest, but certainly some interest in people being there year-round and all day and night, having some people who work on the site, who live on the site. And so there was interest in some of that, which doesn't need to take a lot of land area, but can be conserved that purpose really enliven and support economically this area. And then there were infrastructure uses, modes of transportation. A lot of people wanting to find ways not to fill this space for part of the day, but rather to favor other forms of transportation. Take a look, and we'll come back to this when we go to the boards, at this circle. What the circle represents is taking that information, what people were most interested in, and putting it in balance with the other users. So we have taken that and used that very effectively in the alternative. So if you add up the components that are open space and active uses and sports and cultural, all kinds of things you have been talking about and we've been talking about, that adds up to almost 70% of the area of the site. But there's plenty of room left because it's site for other users that would work with it and hear about that. Just a couple other final points about the meeting, just a couple anecdotes. For example, staff themselves are very popular, 239 documentation, figure of those. There were wild cards, and a lot of interesting ideas came up when we were fascinated with. There's 46 countries who supported the solar power of Canal. I know there are numbers we've been thinking about, but it's a fascinating idea. But that was one of many. I mean, there were a lot of really interesting ideas. We looked at what people said about the stadium. There were many comments given. The post-its themselves, about 47 of them said yes, 99 said no, but they didn't say no necessarily to a stadium. They just felt there might be other locations. Some of them said no, others said try this, try that, other ideas. We're not going to solve the stadium question tonight because there is a current study that's going on by the state of New York. You've all read about it in the newspapers, I'm sure. And we're monitoring the results from that and see what that says about the outer harbor. So we'll fold that in as we get that information. I'm going to turn this over to Noah Freeman, who's going to talk to you about how we got from that information and the 24 plans to the frameworks and alternatives that we'll talk about tonight. Then I'll come back and we'll talk about what you do next. There you go.
Thank you. It's really great to be back here with all of you. We had a blast last time we were here. As you can see, really inspired by all of your thoughts and input, and really felt that you gave us really great. As Karen mentioned, one of the things that we asked you to do was to tell us the different uses that you thought were appropriate at the outer harbor, and that's pretty much what Karen's been talking about. But we also asked you to help us identify where those uses might be most appropriate. And we did that with what we call the planning. And I see that a lot of you I recognize the some doing this planning, and I was really impressed. I think the city of Buffalo and the really approach to participate in
this is our analysis of those 24 plants. And the colors basically are the same colors that you were just looking at. And so basically the red is active use, blue is infrastructure, the teal is ecology and resiliency, green is open space, orange is neighborhood, and the purple is sports and culture, and jobs and entertainment is blue. Well, what we wanted to do is we wanted to see if there was some patterns that were emerging from these different plans, and we put them together in a series of composite plans that we've been calling heat maps. And these heat maps, basically, what you're looking at is where there's more intense color, more people place a game card in that location of that use. So, for instance, Terminal A is very easy to see. Most everybody felt that there should be an active use at Terminal A. Sports and culture, that purple dot, I can tell you that's an amphitheater. Most people put an amphitheater in that location. Well, that's where the concerts are happening at the moment right now, and so there was consistency there. There was some place, and then there was nowhere that people didn't think that would be appropriate for open space. So to look at these a little bit more in depth, looking at active use, what we did start to notice is that there were certain distinct areas that people felt were more appropriate for active use than others. And that was the north part of the site, around the old, the historic ship canal, ship slips, and then at Terminal A at the south, and then also some small amount of active use around the Bellslip Harbor. Similarly with neighborhood uses, there was a consistency of interest of neighborhood uses here at the north part of the site, and then again at Terminal A and B at the southern part of the site. In terms of ecology and resiliency, I think what we heard resoundingly is that people are very interested and concerned about the shoreline and are asking for us and the City of Buffalo and this process to address the issue of the changing waters. Similarly, people were interested in ecology and ecological zones, and that was placed in different locations across the site. And as I mentioned, there was really nowhere on the outer harbor that people didn't think was appropriate for open space. So jobs and entertainment uses were generally, again, focused towards the north and the south, and we started to see a pattern here that development uses were really focused on the north end and the south end of the site. And again, that's reinforced by the cultural uses that are focused so heavily here at the southern part of these historic boat slips. A big thing that got talked about at the planning games was connecting the outer harbor to the rest of Buffalo, and there were many really fabulous ideas. But just to synthesize them, the strongest was a connection, a transit connection from Buffalo, downtown Buffalo, to the outer harbor. And as you can see, there were many different routes that people thought were appropriate. You're not going to see all of those routes tonight, because we did have to go back and we talked with our transportation consultants, and we talked with other members of the community, for instance, General Mills, which is right here, which is currently a vibrant industrial use that's employing many people in Buffalo, and they're very concerned about a new connection there. So we're leaving that off the table tonight. That's not to say it's not there and there's not an opportunity for this in the future, but at the moment in this process, we're concerned about the impact that might have on the economy of downtown Buffalo. So I want to really quickly run through the concept of urban design framework. And the preferred plan are going to share eight frameworks. And very quickly, I'll run through those eight frameworks. So the first is open space, and this concept of well-loved public space. Second is ecology and resiliency, and this is really focused on this idea of natural infrastructure, living and food. Health and recreation, this is obvious. So many people, this is the number one most desired use for executive. Access and mobility, again, one of the the most talked about components and frameworks of the plan is how to get to and from the outer harbor easily and potentially without a cost. Land use, the concept of diversity, waterfront culture, this place really should be about public. And of course, in order to make it feel like a place, it has to be something. And last but not least, I would agree. This is probably one of the most effective ways that we can maximize the most valuable aspects of the harbor, which are the water that's adjacent to it, and the downtown, and the beautiful setting around you. So quickly, I'm going to go through how the alternatives were developed, and then we're going to go into the alternatives. So we have been in a pretty fast-paced process. This is what we do with most projects. We start with an existing site condition report where we get things and we start to learn about the site, and we also learn about the work that has been done previously on the site. And there's a lot. Your community, you have worked on the site for many, many years before. We don't want to repeat that. We want to compete. Okay? So then we met with you, and at that meeting, we received information, and we synthesized that information we saw, and we used that as our direction. You're our client. We can direct you forward. We add that together with our concept of urban design framework, and we get solved. And today, you're going to be asked to explore the alternatives. So, very quickly, I want to talk about the three different plans that we're looking at. And we're calling them component plans. This is a very important thing to think about. And the point that I want to make is that we're not asking you to vote on any one of these three plans. We're asking you to rank each plan based on its strength. So I'm guessing that there's not going to be one of these cards. Very few of these cards are going to have one plan. And that's okay. That's the point. That's why this is called component plan. Because each one of these components can be swapped. If there's a feature, a framework that you like from alternative C, you can match that with another framework that you like from alternative A and another framework from alternative B. So the difference between these three plans is primarily about how development lays out across the site and the pattern that occurs. In alternative A, we've suggested two development nodes at the north and south with one large open space in the middle. In alternative B, we have a little bit more smaller development nodes at the north and the south that have more natural features that weave through them with a small node of development in the middle of the site. And alternative C breaks it down even further, where the patterning of the land is more integrated. Development, natural open space, development, natural open space, development, natural open space, and then finally development at the southern end. And so, again, as Karen mentioned, what we're looking at is the same development area, same amount of open space, same amount of development area. And that we got from you at the last workshop. You gave us a program, we worked with it. So we're now at the next step, and we're giving you a series of land patterns and frameworks, and we're asking for direction from you once again, which we will work with again. Okay, so I'm going to invite Kate to come up to talk a little bit about this.
Thanks so much, Igor. I'm Chief Architect, and I'll take a few minutes just to expand on a couple of the frameworks, let you know, contextualize and thoughts. And then, as was explained earlier, each of the frameworks has implications. We can have a more in-depth implication and discussion at that point. From an open space perspective, well, we heard you all loud and clear, even in the opening remarks, we know that access is critical, and open space is critical. C was the integration of recreational trails, large, great, significant great waterfront promenade, again, in the social eminent scale, we heard from you how the development of the Outer Harbor site is critical for wildlife and time to pick. And so we began to think about design with human scale of each of these frameworks, ways of bringing water into the site, including the corridors, to really make this we look closely at existing assets and how we can set that to really to create an winter catalogue of experience that is very close to you that help somebody limited. We're very interested also in diversifying the edge. These are great ways to consider this space relative to Buffalo that provides the rent content. So there is a waterfront edge that could be even with 9 miles really drastically expand the biodiversity that we could so we looked at thickening and expanding that edge. And in so doing, not only do we create logical experience, we also create corridors that are diverse and create different opportunities. So from this standpoint, we also heard loud and clear that we bold. This site was landfill. So I think one of the things that was very interesting was the notion of the water intensity. How can this site participate in through even making potentially connections back to now? How can this site help clean and filter so in all of this, that's really show different degrees of intervention, but they all include sort of the upland habitat, waterfront, and so health and recreation, Sarah mentioned, lots of green dots. We heard that loud and clear, and I think what's very interesting, as Nora mentioned, relative to developing different opportunities for immersion and connection to recreation. In any case, this is a tremendous aspect to recreation and the really key triggers. What's happening out there now? There's jogging, walking, dogs, and building on the recreational aspect is really strong and another critical aspect of supplementation is that we think about season throughout the year, cold weather and warm weather. A key aspect of supplementation is that NOAA is also bikeway inclusion. We know with the inclusion of Ohio that these kinds of bikeways is very difficult to unlock. So not only in bike connections, but we heard a lot about transit connections and different types of transit connections. These could be improved bike service. This could also be an extension of Drysdale on Main Street, water taxis, shuttles, and then also bike and car share pods, so people felt comfortable walking because they knew they might be able to pick up a car. One thing that we wanted to do, and we've started to look at, is that how people will come to the Outer Harbor in the future. So working with Eric, who's our transportation consultant, we've identified a few different locations that people might be coming from, north towns or south towns, or maybe even from Toronto for the weekend. And then also from maybe an Allentown or an Elmwood, a more of a downtown Buffalo neighborhood, and looked at all the different ways that they could get to the Outer Harbor in the future, and really this is helping us to make our recommendations on what is really the appropriate transit connection to the Outer Harbor. Land use, we've talked a lot about that already, and I'm just going to remind you that we got our land use program from the last workshops. So what you're looking at is what the citizens of Buffalo, your neighbors and you, asked us to put into this plan. And as a result, here's what it is.
And it's a very rich plan, a mixed-use waterfront with a lot of open space as well. The most valuable asset of a waterfront site is obviously the water. And so it's critical for us to have a focused look at the waterfront. And this is why it's so important that it is its own framework. And I really encourage you to go back to that station when we get a chance and look through it and help us to understand what other destination activities could we put out there that would really enhance Buffalo's waterfront culture. And as you can see from those pictures, it doesn't take a lot. And again, if we are asking people to come out to the waterfront and to Outer Harbor, we really need to make sure that we design and plan this place as a comfortable place throughout the year. And what you'll see in the different plans is that we took a few different approaches that as we move forward will probably all make their way into a preferred plan, but we're not really sure exactly which ones are the best for your community. So in alternative A, we really focused on orienting streets towards the water so people could move very quickly and feel it was convenient and publicly accessible. In alternative B, what we did is we oriented the streets north-south because what we know is that in cold weather climates, north-south streets get greater solar access throughout the year and are sunnier and warmer. And then on alternative 3, we oriented the streets against the wind, against the prevailing wind. And if these streets are scaled appropriately, they can be wind-protected places throughout the year. You can walk across the Outer Harbor or walk through a neighborhood of the Outer Harbor in the middle of winter and not feel the wind. So these are all the frameworks that we're going to be asking you guys to evaluate. And here's some diagrams that you'll see at the station. Really the concept that through this layering effect, starting with landforms here on the left, tree planting, and then urban form, we can really limit the wind that gets into the pedestrian realm. Oh, there's one more view. So this is a view. Basically, there are amazing views. There are city views. There are views of heritage buildings. There are going to be new open space views. There are going to be new urban views. And of course, and then most importantly, or most powerfully, is going to be the views to the lakes that are opened up for the people of Buffalo and visitors. And we've thought a lot about and heard about interesting ideas for helping people to get up off the ground to enjoy these views throughout the season or throughout the day. Okay, so what we're asking you to do today is to score these component plans. So each of you should have gotten a scorecard. And what we'd like you to do is, when we're done with the presentation, which is about 2 minutes from now, we're going to ask you to go to the different stations. And there's going to be a team member at each of those stations that's available to have a more one-on-one discussion about each of the frameworks and help explain what we're proposing. And so we're asking you to take the scorecard, and in each one of the frameworks, we're asking you to rate your preferred plan. So for instance, here in this person's scorecard, they thought for ease of movement, framework alternative C really was their preferred. We're also asking you to put your second and third choice. This is really helpful for us when we're gathering all this information and trying to listen to what you said. So please do that. And then we left, hopefully, enough space to write some notes on each of those frameworks if you want. And on the back of these cards, there's even more space to write your notes. And when you go to turn this in, if you still feel like this is not enough, there are actual index cards here to continue to write notes well. And we appreciate them. We read them. So we really look forward to your input on this. We appreciate your direction up to this point, and we look forward to more direction.